The purpose of this video is to talk to you about how to write a paper. You are the very audience for this video if you are just getting started on your Scarlet letter paper and you don't know what to do, or if you have received feedback that you do not have an argument, that you summarize too much, or you don't have structure. What I'm going to do is talk to you about how I would start writing my paper. I'm going to look at the question of what does Hawthorne say about risk? And the very first thing I'm going to do, as everyone should do when they start a paper, is start looking at every moment that might have to do with that topic. So if we're talking about risk, well then, what are the moments in the book that have to do with risk? That's going to look at two different ways. What are the moments in the book that have to do with risk in which risk is encouraged? And what are the moments in the book where risk is discouraged? So I've done a little bit of brainstorming. When Hester and Dimmesdale plan to leave, they're willing to take a risk. That counts. When Hester allows Chillingworth to medicate Pearl in the beginning of the story, well, that counts too. The way that Hester designed the letter A, yeah, that was a risk too. She made it kind of beautiful. It was red and gold. That was a little bit risky in itself. Speaking of dressing and having thread say something, dressing Pearl to stand out, that was a risk on the mother's part. She also goes to the governor to plead to keep Pearl. That could get you in trouble. Sometimes confronting authority is a risk. Oh, you know what? If you go into somebody's bedroom and you open up their shirt and look down at their chest, yeah, I consider that a risk. Hey, what about the very beginning of this book, where somebody had an affair? That seems like risky behavior. When Dimmesdale and Hester go to the forest, they could be seen, they could be spied on. That seems risky. How about that very first scaffold scene when Dimmesdale wants Hester to reveal him? He's begging her. Well, that was taking a risk. Now, what about Dimmesdale when he mounts a scaffold at the end? In some ways, that's a risk for Hester. Now they're going to know who the father of the child is. Her life could still be in danger. And it's also, perhaps, Dimmesdale avoiding a risk because now he has kind of confessed his sins to the community and made atonement. I think Hester returning to her house and always staying home is avoiding a risk. Deciding to confront Chillingworth is a risk. Dimmesdale calls out the scaffold. I'm not sure. That is a risk because perhaps somebody will say, "Hey, Dimmesdale, what you doing up there?" Though it's also not a risk because, well, it's at night and nobody knows. How about the fact he has David and Bathsheba in his study? All right, so what I've just done in this very first step is I've brainstormed. I've brainstormed all these different topics that have to do with risk. So now I have all these ideas. Now I have to figure out what to do with them. But that's the next video.